Hey guys, it's Vex. Have you heard the news? RWBY is working on their first feature film. But not just any film, the film is a crossover between RWBY and the Justice League. So allow me to read this tweet here from RWBY's official Twitter account. RWBY's first feature film is coming in 2023. The film will introduce a new original RWBY DC crossover story with the Justice League. The RWBY Justice League comic series was a breakout hit. Was it though? Was it really? Can I see those numbers? I'm not saying they're lying, but I don't know if I buy that comic book series was a breakout hit. And this will expand the world of the crossover with a wholly original story. Rooster Teeth is currently in production on this film, animated and produced by the same team that produces RWBY. That is important. In partnership with Warner Brothers Animation and Warner Brothers Home Entertainment. It's set to premiere in 2023. Okay, so now let me read this Variety article. RWBY is crossing over with heroes of DC Comics. A new film spin-off of the popular animated series has been announced and will feature characters from the Justice League. The announcement was made on Friday during RTX Austin, a convention hosted by digital media company Rooster Teeth. The crossover will be the first film set in the RWBY universe and will be animated by the same team as the web series. That is important. That bit is very important. The film will be produced by Rooster Teeth in partnership with Warner Brothers Animation and Warner Brothers Home Entertainment. The film comes after last year's RWBY Justice League comic book miniseries. According to the announcement, the new film will feature a complete new story separate from the original comic. The film is currently slated for 2023. Okay guys, I have a lot to say about this. So first of all, the comic that they are referencing came out last year. The first issue was released digitally, I think around March 2021. I haven't heard anything good about the comic book, honestly. I haven't heard good things. So I went ahead and looked into the comic book to see just how this thing works. So this isn't a situation where the DC characters are traveling from a different universe and coming into the RWBY universe. No, that's not what's happening. What's happening is the Justice League characters are being molded to fit in the RWBY universe. They're going to be in-world already. For example, the Batman, Bruce Wayne, will be a Bat-Faunus. Yang and RWBY will discover Clark Kent as a farm boy on Patch. He'll just be a kid they find on Patch. Maybe Wonder Woman will be somewhere else, but basically these characters are already in the world. So instead of having superpowers, they'll have semblances. Maybe some of them will be huntsmen. The characters are just being adapted for the world of RWBY. So Team RWBY are going to meet up with these new characters and probably take on some new Grimm. Honestly, I'm not interested at all. I couldn't care less about this crossover, to be completely honest. So that's what's happening, guys. New feature film, the first feature film, RWBY DC crossover, Justice League characters, so Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, Green Lantern, adapted to fit into the RWBY world. So let's get down to it, okay? Guys, RWBY Volume 9 has been on delay. It's been on delay for a while now. If you remember, RWBY Volume 9 was supposed to come out in 2021, the usual timeline for the release, but they pushed it back. They reached out and told us why they were pushing it back to 2022. What they said was they were dealing with COVID, so people were working from home, and they didn't want to rush production. They wanted to do a good job and not stress themselves, so they decided to push back the release of Volume 9 to 2022. And most people were fine with that. Most people didn't have a problem with that. They didn't give a concrete date, they just said 2022. And people were okay with that. They understood. They said, okay, we get it. It's a difficult time. Folks are dealing with COVID. You're working from home. Take your time, make sure the product is good. We'll get it a few months later in 2022. To be clear, that was the narrative, that this will give them time to smooth over the writing and focus on the animation, and we'll get a better product this way. That was the narrative. That was last year. Fast forward to 2022, and people are upset because they haven't been told when this thing is coming out. They were very vague. They said it was going to come out in 2022, but they didn't say spring, summer, fall. So a lot of people, they were wondering, when would this volume be released? Well, it turns out RWBY Volume 9 is not coming out until next year, 2023. Why? Because of this film. CRWBY were not just working on RWBY Volume 9 the past 2 years. They've been working on this film as well. That's the biggest reason why this volume has been on delay. So that narrative needs to die. I can promise you that Volume 9 has been put on the back burner for this film. It's obvious. Over the past 2 years, this film is priority number 1. Guaranteed. This is their first feature film, guys. They're working with Warner Brothers Animation. They want to impress Warner Brothers, okay? They have all hands on deck for this film. Their best animators, their best creative, they want to impress on their first feature film. Guys, they are working with popular IP. They have their hands on Bruce Wayne, Clark Kent, and they want to make sure they do them justice and do it well. And oh, they better, because not only are Warner Brothers Animation looking at them, but the DC fans are going to be very annoyed if they screw up these characters. Guys, if they thought RWBY fans were critical, imagine what the DC fans are going to say about this. They have to make sure this animation and this story works and that it is a good product. Warner Brothers Animation are watching and are involved. This is priority number 1, I promise you. RWBY Volume 9 won't be any better because of this break, okay? They've been working on this film. How long has Volume 9 been pushed aside? I'm not saying that RWBY Volume 9 will be any worse than Volume 8 because they've been working on this film. What I'm saying is their narrative that RWBY Volume 9 will be better because they were taking their time is not the case. So temper your low expectations. I have a question. Who is even asking for this film? I don't buy the fact that the comic book was so popular and so successful that they had to make this film. I don't buy it. The hardcore RWBY fans are pissed. They don't want this film. All they want is RWBY Volume 9. Go check RWBY Reddit. Go look at Reddit. They're all upset right now because all they ever wanted was for the story to continue. They wanted RWBY Volume 9. That's it. They don't care about this crossover film at all. And DC fans, they certainly don't care. Most of them don't even know what RWBY is. Nobody is asking for this except for maybe Rooster Teeth. I kinda understand why they want to make this movie. The RWBY IP with a DC property, the Justice League. I think that they think this is huge for them. It's a big deal. People who have no idea what RWBY is are gonna see Justice League and check it out, and maybe they'll become RWBY fans. I mean, that has to be the thought process here. Again, the fandom were not asking for this. They just want the new volume. Will this crossover film expose more people to RWBY? I guess, but how much so? That's why Rooster Teeth wants to make this film? More people exposed to the franchise? I hope it's worth pissing off your fans. RWBY has been out of sight, out of mind for a while now. Are people still gonna care about the world of Remnant in 2023? I'm not talking about the diehard fans. I'm talking about the fringe fans, the casual fan. Are they still engaged in the story? Do they still care? How many people have fallen off because of this long delay? That's the question. Will the long hiatus have an effect on how many people give a shit? I guess we'll have to see. Bottom line, this narrative that RWBY Volume 9 would be better off because of the break, it's gone. It's the same old, same old. Volume 9 was delayed because they were working on other shit. Plain and simple. All the projects were done in-house. The project that most RWBY fans don't care about was priority number 1, the film. And that is that. Are you excited for the film? Do you care about this crossover? Are you worried about RWBY Volume 9? Let me know. Like, comment, and subscribe. Follow me on Twitter, and I'll see you in the next video. Later.